On Thanksgiving, we often ask, or get asked, what are you thankful for? For me, no doubt, one of the things I'm most thankful for is all the amazing people I've met this year. So, on this day of thanks, an episode with one of those people, a pretty incredible person, Medal of Honor recipient Leroy Petry. I interviewed him back in September for another project I'm thankful for, and that's our series we call The Price of Freedom. That series is all about military veterans. Of the 40 million people who have served in the United States military, only 3,517 have received the Medal of Honor. Of that 3,517, only 66 are still living. Among those 66 living recipients, retired Army Master Sgt. Leroy Petry. He is outstanding. And the combat action where he was awarded the Medal of Honor is also remarkable. He was fighting in Afghanistan. He and the other members of the small team he was fighting with were injured. He had been shot in both legs. So when a grenade was thrown close to them, he knew if he didn't do something drastic, they would all be severely injured, if not killed. He picked up the live grenade and he threw it, but as it was leaving his hand, it detonated. He lost his hand due to the grenade blast and now has a mechanical hand.
I want people to see the technology. I want young adults and kids to see this technology. And right now, with a lot of the STEM schools and everything, kids are craving technology, and hopefully it'll inspire them, one of them, to build the next better thing for everyone.
This is Tomorrowtown, Tennessee. This is the podcast that tells the stories of people who call the Tennessee Valley home. We examine the problems we're all facing, and we talk to those working on solutions. I'm Josh Roe. I'll be your host for this journey. I was honored to get a few minutes with Leroy Petry. As I told you earlier, his story is incredible, and so is he. When he talks to you, he gives you his undivided attention. He's dialed in to the conversation. We talked at the Medal of Honor Heritage Center in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. He was a guest speaker at an annual fundraiser, the Celebration of Valor Luncheon. We talked about many topics, including the need to honor and learn from our Vietnam veterans while we still can. Here is that interview with Leroy Petry. I mentioned you before we started rolling that I saw you in D.C. last week, and you asked me, you know who I was, you asked me to take a picture of you and some police officers. And, you know, I think that's an interesting thing, right? Number one, you're taking your time to talk to, you know, these guys who are serving their community. And at the same time, you're corralling people to help you, you know, document this moment, you know, and I think that when you receive the Medal of Honor, things do change in that way, right? People see who you are. People see how you interact with the public. Can you just explain kind of what that experience has been like for you?
Blessing and curse all in one. Sometimes it's always a positive event, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I realize that, and being a veteran, I mean, that term alone is experience. And so having the experience, that's where I knew I could help others that were coming to and receiving the recognition, what to expect, because someone was there for me when I received it, and they mentored me. And I said, just like someone served in the military when I was growing up, I wanted to just give that back to the next generation or to another person. And that's how we continue to share our ideas, our beliefs, is through experience and example.
Yeah. The Medal of Honor Heritage Center has been here for a few years now, and every year they bring in a Medal of Honor recipient to talk at their annual fundraiser, and that's you this year. When you speak to groups, what's your message? What do you want people to understand about you and about how you see things right now?
I think a lot of the message is, it changes time to time depending on the crowd. I don't have the cookie cutter speech like most people. I don't like regurgitating the same exact thing. It gets monotonous to me, and I don't want to disappoint them. And also, I want to find something that I can connect with the crowd. And so a lot of times I'll do my research on the people that I'm talking to, And usually there's a reception. I'll get to meet a lot of them and find out what their interests are. And really, I mean, up until the last minute, I'll change what I talk about, because it could all change once you hit the ground. You could have the best plan of action, just like in the military. And once that first round is hit, or I fall back on battle drill number 1, always. React to contact. Right. You give me the best plan, but it's all going to change. Because I have a new motto. I joke with my buddies and I tell them, I wake up and I think Murphy's Law is equal to or less than Leroy's norm. And so I'm ready for whatever the day throws at me. It's already expected. But to be able to give that back, it was the same thing I did in the military service. I had the opportunity to get out of the military after I got injured, and I said no. I said, it's not time for me yet. I may not be able to jump out of planes, kick down doors, jump out of fast rope out of helicopters, but I could help the men and women who are coming back from downrange and dealing with injuries, illness, and their families. And so finding your own purpose and what you're good at and what you can be successful at helping others do is important. And that's all I see is when I see a target opportunity to make something better or help somebody out, I take it. Because all it does is take time.
Yeah, tell me how you navigated that process, because I know people do get medically retired, so to speak. That is a thing that does happen. How are you able to convince them that you could stick around and provide,
Well, at the time, we SOCOM had liaisons at the hospitals, both in Walter Reed and San Antonio, and one out in San Diego, as well as in Germany and in country. And so the idea was they track you all the way back to bedside and take care of you through recovery or transition out of the military. And so that, like I said, that person was there for me and my family, and I saw the difference that they made, not only in the special ops guys that were there, they took care of people that weren't even their responsibility because they saw the need. And when I saw that, I realized that we had a lot of special operations in the Northwest. And I said, I was just about to get out, and I said, can I do that and stay in? And they said, absolutely. And so when I got out 2014, I joked with the guys that still work there, a few of them, but there was 3 guys filling in the positions up there, because the position I started with just me, it's turned into 3. And I joke with them, I tell them, it took 3 of you to replace me. And but it was something I could be content with, because I knew I wanted to go back downrange. I knew I didn't want a shortfall of my arm to cause somebody else harm or death, but I could still do a job and I was still effective. And the military started realizing that the knowledge is still there, the experience is still there, and they could still produce, that it's not damaged goods.
Right. I know you get a lot of questions about your hand and your arm. How do you answer those questions when you get those?
I actually had a skin cover that it kind of creeps me out because I know it's not real. But with the hand, it's more than I ever thought I would receive. I thought I was going to receive a hook. I actually did get a hook, and I was a pirate my first Halloween home with the kids. Yeah. It's awesome. I was like, yeah, I got the real thing. But I want people to see the technology. I want young adults and kids to see this technology. And right now, with a lot of the STEM schools and everything, kids are craving technology, and hopefully it'll inspire them, one of them, to build the next better thing for everyone. And that's really how we base our lives. We base our lives off of people that we meet that guide us and inspire us to do something just as they did for us. And a lot of times that inspiration comes from a personal aspect of it. It was direct to that person or a family member, and that's why it inspired them.
Yeah. I remember I saw Vince Butler, who does a lot of jobs around here at the Heritage Center, and it was over the winter, and he told me you were coming to speak. So at that point, you had no idea about the timeline for Larry Taylor being awarded the Medal of Honor before. I mean, you couldn't have drawn it up any better than this. Having someone here locally with a story like that, first of all. I mean, his story is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal human being. And thinking the chance, you were there in D.C. for that, to see it firsthand. What has that experience been like? And then the fact that you get to spend some more time here with us, for the next couple of days, talking to more folks.
I was excited in D.C. because the support that I saw come out for Larry from Chattanooga and from Tennessee and from a lot of his friends in Vietnam, fellow service members. And to me, that was always the generation that touched me a little bit more, because they didn't get the accolades, they didn't get the recognition. They had to fight an unpopular war and come back to an ungrateful country. And I could think of nothing worse. Not everybody was ungrateful, but a lot of the country didn't show them the respect and honor that they deserved. And they are the ones that I think are highly responsible for campaigning to never treat another soldier that way again. And that's why I always get an opportunity, I thank them, because our generation got treated pretty well in consideration to taking care of the families, their needs, and making sure the men and women were not treated like that ever again. And so to welcome another recipient, and from that generation, for me it's a little more personal, because the sacrifice that they went through, and now to be honored like that, and to know that it's an opportunity to do more. All veterans, most veterans, when they get out of service, they just want to do more, and they want to be good pillars in their communities. And that's really all we've been given, is a platform highlighting one of our stories. We all, as veterans, have stories. Most of us as veterans are good people that want to do great things for others still as we get out. And so to have that platform, to be able to supersize that, is a opportunity that most of us look at as a blessing.
You mentioned the part about the treatment of the Vietnam veterans, and that part, I think, sometimes may get lost in the last couple of weeks, celebrating Larry Taylor, telling this story, talking to Dave Hill, today. And I asked him, I said, what was it like? Dave Hill was, a driving force in making sure that this carried on and was going to happen. So what was that like today, to ride in the car with Larry Taylor as his hometown welcomes him home? The first time they seen him post that, and he said it was the welcome home parade that we never got. And it was one of those things, like, yeah, I still your mouth open. And that same thing, I thought
nothing came out.
I thought that too. I was like, whoa.
I was going to say something. I just said, wow.
Yeah, I just hadn't considered that in the moment, although I know the history and I understand all of it. But it was like, right, in the middle of this celebration, in the middle of this great story, these men lived that era. And Larry's told me before about coming home from the war, and it was not pretty. But these guys for years just told, don't talk about it. Or mistreated or whatever. And so to see that, man, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
We had recipients that said they had dog feces smeared on them, and they were told, just keep walking to the bus. And they were the better people for doing it. Because sometimes violence or reacting to that doesn't solve anything. You just get yourself in trouble too. And that's the thing I love, is that they always still set the example. They took the higher road, and it was tough. And a lot of people never talked about it, but for a long period, our Vietnam veterans, they were the highest percentage of our suicides. When they talked about 22 a day, it depends who you ask and numbers, but it was actually closer to 33 for a long time. And that was the generation that was doing a lot of that. And for me, I think about that because to have a Vietnam recipient or a Vietnam veteran commit suicide, I said, wow. Where's their support? Because a lot of the veteran service organizations today that support our military and our veterans are all post 9/11. Well, majority of them. And so there's still support for those generations is still not there. And we can't forget them. We just lost our last World War II Medal of Honor recipient last year. And it's tough. We have one Korean War veteran. And those are the generations that are being lost if we don't share their stories and what they did and why they did it. I was up in Alaska talking about suicide prevention not too long ago, and they're getting ready to do some big Arctic training. And of course, a lot of people that have never been up in Alaska, they're complaining about how cold it is and everything, and they haven't even started. Right. And I said, what they really need to do is, there's not many left, but get some Korean War veterans up here to talk to those troops and tell them about, we didn't have a 3-bag sleeping bag system with Gore-Tex. We had wool blankets that when they got wet, those aren't what you wanted to sleep in. And to talk about some of the challenges they faced. Because if we don't share those stories of hardship and adversity, then how do we expect the next generation to be resilient?
Thanks to Medal of Honor recipient Leroy Petry. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you for listening to Tomorrowtown, Tennessee. This podcast is a production of News Channel 9, Fox Chattanooga, and Sinclair Broadcast Group Chattanooga. We hope you join us again real soon.